Chapter 134. Before the head elder's voice faded, a swooshing noise came from afar. Whoosh! 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 3 silhouettes stood above the clouds, their bodies rising and falling along with the airflow. Haha, 5 of us, not one less. All 3 of them were wearing black robes with golden edges and cloaks, which were embroidered with evil ghost patterns. At this moment, the middle-aged man in black robes, who seemed to be the leader, glared at the 3 of them and let out a cruel laugh. The head elder knew that these 3 people must be the ghost guards of the Ghost Corpse Mountain, but he still yelled, "Who are you? The ones who will kill you." The middle-aged man in black robes on the left pulled out his long blade and launched a hack. Puff! The clouds were torn apart, and a gigantic gray blade chi, which was tens of meters long, flashed across the sky and appeared in front of the wind vulture. Bastard! The head elder's long hair and beard fluttered in the air as he pointed his finger out. Puff! The blade chi was penetrated by the finger power and shattered. Sky-burning palm. The 4th elder couldn't wait anymore. He raised his red-hot, iron-like palm and launched a hack, evaporating the clouds. Kill! The middle-aged man in black robes, who seemed to be the leader of the group, made his move. He pressed his right hand in the air and released a tens of meters long gray gigantic palm made of Zhen Qi. Not only did it shatter the 4th elder's palm power, it also moved towards the wind vulture and Yi Chen's group like a dark cloud. The head elder was fighting against another man in the air. Seeing the sky turn dark, he immediately knew what was going on. He calmly stepped on the wind vulture's back and let it descend into the clouds. The gigantic palm made of Zhen Qi almost grazed the wind vulture's body and shattered the clouds in that area. Shockwaves spread out in all directions, stirring up the sea of clouds. Where do you think you're going? The man in black robes, who hadn't joined the fight yet, swooped down from the clouds and blocked the wind vulture's way. The head elder's face darkened. He controlled the wind vulture and swooped down, trying to fight the man on the ground. A fierce gale roared, and the ant-sized mountains on the ground quickly enlarged. When the wind vulture was still thousands of meters away from the ground, a gigantic palm made of Zhen Qi swooped down at an even faster speed. The wind vulture was indeed a 5th-level beast. It flapped its wings and sped up once again, drawing an arc in the air and barely dodging the gigantic Zhen Qi palm. At last, the wind vulture successfully landed on a mountain peak that was flat and stable. The 3 of you don't split up. Han Shan released the silver light thunderbolt bomb at the critical moment. The great elder ordered as he stomped on the ground. Lu Hanshan nodded seriously, then said to Yi Chan and Su Jing, "Don't worry, we'll just stand aside and watch. They can't do anything to us." Yi Chan, on the other hand, was not too worried. The sect had given them a lot of life-saving treasures when they went on such a long journey. As for the silver light thunderbolt bomb that the great elder mentioned, although he had never heard of it before, it was definitely not an ordinary item for the great elder to value it so much. Boom! The mountain peak shook. The great elder and the middle-aged man in black robes had already started fighting. Both of them were powerful late-clasping Yuan realm martial artists. Every single move of theirs could shake a mountain. Some beasts that were startled by the fight were smashed into meat paste by the fierce chi of the 2 of them before they could even run away. On the other side, the 4th elder and the wind vulture were fighting against the other 2 middle-aged men in black robes. Although the 4th elder was not as powerful as the great elder, he was still a late-clasping Yuan realm martial artist, and the martial skill he had used was a mid-rank earth realm palm art, the sky-burning palm, which was able to burn everything in its path. The wind vulture was only as powerful as a mid-clasping Yuan realm martial artist, which was not as powerful as the 4th elder, but it had a super fast speed which allowed it to keep the 4th elder occupied. The fight between the 5 of them and the beast had nothing to do with Yi Chan and the other 2. Lu Hanshan sighed and said, "The Ghost Corpse Mountain couldn't wait any longer. It seems that the ghost artist's recovery time is getting closer and closer." The ghost artist? Yi Chan and Su Jing both looked at Lu Hanshan. Lu Hanshan explained, "Once upon a time, there was a powerful martial institution in the South Shore region, called the 9 Ghost Cult. The 9 Ghost Cult had 108 ghost warriors under its leadership, and the ghost artist was one of them. Later on, the 9 Ghost Cult became more and more ambitious. They wanted to unify the entire South Shore region and enslave all the other martial institutions. As a last resort, All the other martial institutions joined hands and started a war against the Nine Ghosts cult, which lasted for years. 20 years ago, the Nine Ghosts cult was finally wiped out. All the powerful martial artists of the Nine Ghosts cult were either killed or escaped. The ghost artist's injury should have been caused by that time. How could such a thing happen? Yi-chan had never heard anything about the Nine Ghosts cult. Of course, this had something to do with his experience. Many people in the martial world might have heard about it. However, this Nine Ghosts cult was way too powerful. It was able to fight against all the martial institutions in the South Shore region by itself. It must be at least rank 5. Yi-chan was shocked. Su Jing asked, "How is the ghost artist's power?" Lu Hansan gave a bitter smile and responded, "He was at the late astral reaching realm when he was at his peak, and now he should be at the early astral reaching realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to wipe out the evil Earth Martial School in one night." Hearing him, both Su Jing and Yi-chan gasped silently. A late astral reaching realm martial artist. A martial artist at this level could easily destroy 1,000 Zhongtal mountain with a single move, while a clasping Yuan realm martial artist could only destroy a 100-meter tall mountain. The two of them were not even on the same level. If the ghost artist recovered his full power, not to mention a single martial institution, even if all 5 of the top martial institutions joined hands, they might not be able to escape the fate of being wiped out. The power gap between them was way too huge, and couldn't be made up by numbers. Heavenly Ghost Seal. Purple Light Finger. High up in the air, a hill-sized gray-black Zhanqi hand clashed against a thin and long beam of purple light. The air was instantly pushed apart like waves, and the aftermath of the collision was powerful enough to kill an ordinary early clasping Yuan realm martial artist. As for condensing reality realm martial artists, they would all be killed. Right at this moment, Yi-chan sensed a slight swishing sound coming from all directions. Someone is coming. The 3 of them stood on top of a mountain and looked down. Soon, they saw hundreds of black dots gathering towards this mountain at an extremely high speed. "Let's fight." Lu Hansan seemed to be very calm. After about 10 blinks of an eye, the first man in black appeared on top of the mountain. His Zhanqi vibration was very strong. He was an early clasping Yuan realm martial artist. "Kill." He gave a vicious grin, then rushed towards the 3 of them without any hesitation. Lu Hansan shook his head, flicked his wrist and threw out a silver iron bomb, which swished across the air and bumped against the protective Zhanqi of the man in black. Boom! A scorching silver lightning bolt burst out, and the man in black was instantly blown into pieces, leaving a 10-meter deep pit on the ground. Yi-chan popped out his eyes. Silver Light Thunderbolt Bomb is way too powerful. An early clasping Yuan realm martial artist didn't even have a chance to fight back before he was blown into pieces. In other words, with a few Silver Light Thunderbolt Bombs, an early clasping Yuan realm martial artist could be killed within a second. Lu Hansan said coldly, "We don't have many Silver Light Thunderbolt Bombs. After we kill the more powerful ones, we'll take care of the rest." That's exactly what I wanted. Su Jing was already itching to join the fight. Soon another 2 men in black rushed up. They were also early clasping Yuan realm martial artists. After all, only those with higher cultivation could fly in the front, while those with lower cultivation stayed behind. Boom! 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 Explosive sounds of the Silver Light Thunderbolt Bombs rose one after another. Except for 1 man in black who was quick enough to dodge, all the other men in black had the same ending. They all died without even leaving a complete corpse. The man in black who had dodged was also hit by the aftermath of the explosion of the Silver Light Thunderbolt Bomb, and lost one of his legs. Great Monument Heavenly King Fist. Lu Hanshan's eyes shone brightly as he threw out a punch. The gigantic Zhanqi fist gripped the purple monument and crushed that badly wounded man in black to death. Blood mist spread out in the air. At this moment, Lu Hanshan's killing intent was completely released. He was no longer as gentle as before. He now looked like a god of slaughter. One after another, the other men in black rushed up the mountain. Pop! Pop! 2 fiery halos appeared behind Su Jing's head. She stomped on the ground and cracked it open. With each punch, she killed 2 late condensing reality realm men in black. Yi-chan wasn't slow either. He performed the sky cloud sword art together with the sword intent. His thick sword chi was almost like a cutting machine. Wherever the sword chi reached, the men in black would be cut in half, their intestines and internal organs spilled out, then turned into blood mist by the aftermath of the sword chi. Little brat, you're courting death. Two peak-level late condensing reality realm men in black robes flashed and surrounded Yi Chan. They were much more powerful than ordinary men in black robes. They were no weaker than the number 1 inner disciple of the Emerald Martial Palace, Chang Jun. But of course, after reaching the late condensing reality realm, Yi Chan didn't see these men as weak opponents anymore. He didn't say a word. Instead, he used the sky cloud sword art together with the crane shadow steps, and dashed between the two men like a misty cloud. Puff! Puff! Two men's heads suddenly flew into the air. Blood gushed out from their necks. Kill! 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 More and more men in black robes appeared on the mountain. Among them were ordinary men in black robes. Some were as powerful as Chang Jun. There were even 1 or 2 child-to-be level men in black robes. Fortunately, all of the clasping Yuan realm men in black robes had been killed by Lu Hanshan's silver light thunderbolt bombs. Otherwise, even if the 3 of them managed to resist for a while, they wouldn't be able to survive. Top heaven! Facing the great pressure, Su Jing finally burst out her hidden power. She activated the 9th level of the Golden 3 realm art, and a dazzling fiery halo appeared behind her head. It was half the size of a human, shining with a golden light, making her look like a female warrior from the ancient times. 3 men in black robes, who wanted to sneakily attack Su Jing, didn't even have the time to react before they were killed by Su Jing's fierce fist power. Their backs even exploded. The power of the 9th level of the Golden 3 realm art was unimaginably powerful. Lu Hanshan had also activated the extreme purple art to the 9th level. A stream of purple chi appeared behind his back, extending into the air like a bridge, increasing his fighting power. At this moment, he launched the great monument Heavenly King Fist, which made him almost invincible. Wherever he went, all the men in black robes would be killed without being able to fight back. Even a child-to-be level man in black robes was knocked back by Lu Hanshan's 3 punches. Yi Chen's Zhanqi cultivation was not as good as the other 2, but he had the pure jade body boosting spell. Half a month ago he had already reached the 5th level of the spell, the golden jade body. With only the defensive power of his body, even those child-to-be level men in black robes would not be able to hurt him. However, he still felt that it was not enough, so he activated the pure Junjin Qi to protect himself, which meant that he now had 2 layers of defense, one inside and one outside. Chapter 135. Puff! One of the black-clothed man held a long blade and hacked on the protective Qi layer, causing the protective Qi layer to dim down. Yi Chan didn't even turn his head around. He only swung the hidden cloud sword backwards. The sword chi released from the sword immediately cut off the black-clothed man's head and sent it flying in all directions. Kill this little bastard. He has mastered the half-step sword intent. We can't let him live. Indeed, kill him. The Ghost General will definitely reward us. Maybe he will teach us even more advanced martial skills. Kill. The 3 of them had killed nearly 20 black-clothed men, but the number of black-clothed men on the mountaintop had increased. Almost every second, 2 or 3 black-clothed men would rush up to the mountaintop and join the battle. 7 or 8 of them had their eyes fixed on Yi Chan. Their eyes were shining with a gray light and filled with a strong killing intent. Corpse King Fist. 10 flashes of Ghost Shadow. Crazy Devil Blade Art. Ghost God Grab. All of the black-clothed men released waves of fierce chi, attacking towards Yi Chan. Yi Chan took a step forward, creating a few huge cracks on the ground. He raised the hidden cloud sword high with his right hand, slightly prepared himself, then swung it down. Limitless Cloud. Puff! The thick sword chi cut apart all of those fierce chi waves, but the remaining power of the sword chi didn't disappear. It flashed through the group of black-clothed men. Puff, puff, puff. The bodies of the 3 black-clothed men who were standing in the middle of the group were suddenly torn into pieces and scattered on the ground. The other black-clothed men were also affected by the sword chi. Their protective Zhan Qi was shattered and blood spurted out of their mouths. All devils fall. On the other side, Su Jing had used all of her Zhan Qi. She shook both of her fists and sent out a bright golden light. All of the black-clothed men within a 5 zhang radius started vomiting blood and fell on the ground. None of them could stand up again. Great monument suppression. Seeing more and more men in black, Luo Hanshan finally gave up on consuming his Zhanqi. Purple smoke burst out from his body, while he clasped his hands together and smashed down. Instantly, a 10-meter-tall purple monument smashed down, smashing 4 men in black into pieces. A faint purple shockwave spread out and sent all the other men in black flying away, vomiting blood. High up in the sky, the eyes of the leader of the black-robed men were about to burst into flames when he saw this scene. He slapped the air with his palm, and a huge grayish-black hand of Zhanqi that was dozens of meters wide covered a small half of the mountain. It enveloped Yi Chan and the other black-robed men, wanting to kill them all. Ah! Run! The black-robed men on the mountain peak felt as if their minds were being torn apart. They flew in all directions like birds and beasts. Rumble! The ground sank by 3 feet. Most of the black-clothed men failed to escape. They were smashed into blood mist by the pressure of the Zhanqi giant hand, and not even their bones were left. Yi Chan and the other 2 were bleeding from their 7 apertures. They were overwhelmed with shock. This palm strike was launched from over 1,000 meters away. Before it even landed, they were already unable to withstand it. If it had landed, they would have died. At this moment, Luo Hanshan roared out in anger. Break! A Longan-sized crystal ball appeared in his hand. It was completely transparent, and contained a bright red light. At first glance, one would even think that the crystal ball was blue. Being injected with his Zhanqi, the crystal ball was shattered. In the next moment, the red light dazzled and formed a 1-foot-thick, semicircular light shield around the 3 of them. Streams of air had been rotating inside the shield. Boom! The gigantic Zhanqi giant hand pressed on the light shield, causing a creaking noise. It seemed that the light shield would shatter at any moment and turn the 3 of them into meat paste. However, the light shield eventually lasted, and gradually destroyed the gigantic Zhanqi giant hand. What is this? A strange look flashed across Yi Chen's eyes. The Longan-sized red crystal ball taken out by Luo Hanshan was almost exactly the same as his blue crystal ball, except for its color. His blue crystal ball was given to him by Yi Hai. Could it be that the red crystal ball and the blue crystal ball had the same origin, and both of them had the effect of shattering the light shield? What was the name of the crystal ball? Did Yi Hai know about its effect? All of a sudden, many thoughts flashed across Yi Chen's mind, but he didn't ask Luo Hanshan about it. Seeing that his attack did not kill the 3 of them, a shocked expression flashed across the middle-aged man's face. With his late clasping Yuan realm cultivation, even from 1,000 meters away, he could easily kill 3 early clasping Yuan realm martial artists with a single attack, not to mention 3 late condensing reality realm martial artists. However, that layer of light shield that appeared later was way too powerful. It had forcibly destroyed the huge Zhanqi palm, making him fail. Purple light paradise. The head elder was still scared. If he had been killed by the mysterious man just now, he wouldn't even know how to explain to the leader of the school. Fortunately, Luo Hanshan had quite a lot of treasures with him which helped him survive. Thinking of this, the head elder activated his Zhanqi and shot out a purple beam of light. The middle-aged man in black robes paused slightly, but fortunately, he reacted fast enough. He moved his body 3 feet to the side and dodged that purple beam of light. Puff! A thumb-sized hole appeared on the mountaintop, which was immeasurably deep. 90% of the power of the light shield had been consumed when it was fighting against the gigantic Zhanqi giant hand. After a while, the light shield became thinner and thinner, turning into pure Yuan Qi and merging with the air. Luo Hanshan wiped the sweat off his forehead. What happened just now was way too dangerous. Fortunately, Luo Xinglia had given him a Yuan light ball before he came here. Yuan light ball was found in a part of the ruins of a super-powerful rank 5 martial institution, the puppet school, which was located 5,000 years ago, along with the method of making wooden puppets. Are you alright? Luo Hanshan turned around and asked. Yi Chan had a strong body. That palm attack had only squeezed out wisps of blood from his eyes, nose, mouth and ears, but hadn't injured him at all. Su Jing was protected by the Golden 3 Realm art, so she was also fine. That's good. Looking around, Yi Chan found that only a few of those men in black robes were still alive. Most of them had been smashed to death by the middle-aged man in black robes in the air. Of course, this was the best outcome for them, otherwise it would be very troublesome to kill them all. After all, they were only late condensing reality realm warriors, and their zhanqi was very limited. They could still fight for a short period of time, but if they fought for a long period of time they would have problems. They did have some zhanqi replenishing pills, and they had already taken quite a few of them. If they continued to take more, their zhanqi would be greatly reduced, and it would also easily cause the zhanqi to be mixed up. Therefore, they shouldn't take too many pills within a day. After killing the rest of the men in black robes, the three of them each took out a low-rank soul stone and started absorbing the yuan qi contained in it to replenish their own zhan qi. The fight between the wind vulture and the man in black robes was very fast, mainly because of the wind vulture's fast speed. The wind vulture circled around the man in black robes, trying to tear him apart with its claws. The man in black robes was able to deal with all kinds of attacks by remaining calm, and whenever he found a flaw, he would launch a thick blade qi, which nearly injured the wind vulture. No, this wind vulture is way too fast. By the time I launch my blade attack, it would have already increased the distance between us. If we keep fighting like this, we won't be able to finish it within a short period of time. The man in black robes had already seen what was happening on the mountain, and he knew that he had to make a decision. The blade qi attack failed again, and a fierce look flashed across the man's face. He stared at the wind vulture and stood still in the air. The wind vulture flashed in the air for a few times, and after a few turns, it jumped towards the man from the left. It was as fast as a lightning bolt, and its speed was almost as fast as the speed of sound. Puff! This time it was much easier than before. The wind vulture easily broke the man's protective zhanqi, and the sharp tip of its claws had already pierced into the man's body. The man in black robes was about to be torn into pieces. Die! The man in black robes turned his body sideways and launched a blade attack on the wind vulture's body. Blood splashed down like a rain of blood. The wind vulture screamed in pain and fell down. Today is the day you die. The man in black robes didn't even have the time to launch another blade attack. Instead, he released his zhanqi and arrived on the mountaintop within a few blinks of an eye. Great monument suppression. Shocking cloud limitless. All devils fall. A gigantic purple monument, a thick stream of sword qi, and a dazzling golden light. All three attacked towards the man in black robes simultaneously. It was Yi Chan and the other two who had launched the attack. The moment they launched the attack, they quickly stepped back. It's useless. The man in black robes slightly waved his long blade, and the purple monument was broken into pieces, the sword qi was shattered, and the golden light dissipated. The man in black robes didn't even have the slightest power to fight back. However, this was all part of their plan. Not knowing when, 4 silver iron balls appeared around the man in black robes. Each of these silver balls had a faintly discernible thread of zhanqi connected to Lu Hanshan's body. Boom! Along with Lu Hanshan's growl, 4 silver lightning bolts dazzled simultaneously and wrapped the man in black robes up, eventually forming a gigantic silver lightning ball. The lightning ball was thickly covered with silver snakes, letting out a sizzling noise. Even from a long distance away, Yi Chan could feel his fine hair standing straight up and his scalp going numb. It turned out that Lu Hanshan had already thrown 4 silver light thunderbolt bombs on the mountaintop, forming a large square formation. Afterwards, he and the other two were also in the middle of the square formation. In case someone attacked, they could retreat in time and launch a fatal attack. However, they didn't expect that the man in black robes would attack first. This man was slightly weaker than the other two. He was at the peak of the mid-clasping Yuan realm. His opponent was the wind vulture. Except for its great speed, it obviously couldn't do any harm to the man in black robes. Instead, it was set up by the man in black robes and was badly injured, falling down from the mountaintop. Silver light thunderbolt bombs can kill peak-level early condensing reality realm martial artists and injure mid-condensing reality realm martial artists. Although I've set up 4 of them, they are still too far away. I don't think they will be able to kill him. I should be careful. Lu Hanshan looked very cautious. He had already used up the last 4 silver light thunderbolt bombs. If they still couldn't kill the man in black robes, then he would have to risk his life. His zhanqi surged out of his body. He was ready for a great fight. The 3 fiery rings behind Su Jing's head grew even brighter, and her eyes looked even sharper. At the same time, Yi Chan had already concentrated all of his power and qi into a single point. He was planning to launch a fatal attack on the man with the heart refining. He believed that the man in black robes wouldn't be injured by the explosion of 4 silver light thunderbolt bombs. As long as the man was injured, Yi Chen's heart refining would definitely be able to further injure him, maybe even kill him with a single attack. Pop! The silver lightning ball shattered, revealing the man in black robes. His entire body was scorched black. The color of his skin could no longer be seen. Cyan smoke was still rising from some of the large wounds on his body, along with the smell of grilled meat. Bastard! I want you to die without a proper burial. The man in black robes slightly moved his body, then he tried to spurt out blood from his mouth, but the blood seemed to have been evaporated by the electric current, only a puff of white smoke came out. He raised his head and stared at the 3 people with his devil-like blood-red eyes. Chapter 136. Puff. The first one to launch the attack was Yi Chen. He wielded his sword and released a thick stream of sword qi, which transformed into a beam of white light and instantly hit the assassin's body. However, this sword attack only left a bone-deep mark on the assassin's body, but failed to penetrate deep. A layer of blood-red light emerged from under the assassin's skin, which not only blocked the sword qi from penetrating into his body, but also destroyed the sword qi in a flash. Then came Su Jing's devil-suppressing fist power. The dazzling golden light struck on that layer of blood-red light like a waterfall, causing muffled popping noises. East rising purple qi. Great monument suppression. The bridge-like purple mist poured into his body. Lu Hanshan growled out, clasped his hands together and smashed towards the assassin. Instantly, the gigantic monument, which was shining with a purple light, suddenly pressed down, seeming to shatter the blood-red light and shatter the assassin into pieces. Bang! However, the purple monument was the one that shattered in the end. The black-clothed swordsman's scorched skin started to crack, and a bloody light came out from the cracks. It was rich and red, like the magma underground. It was abnormally eye-catching. The purple steel was hit by the bloody light and immediately melted, turning into pure yuan qi. At this moment, 2 beams of blood-red light darted out from the assassin's eyes. He grinned viciously and said, "Let's die together." The blood devil body separating magic. Rumble. The thunderous sound was not made by the assassin, instead, it was the sound of the mountain collapsing. It turned out that after the explosion of the 4 silver light thunderbolt bombs, the area where the assassin was standing was already showing signs of breaking. Then, after being struck by the sword qi, the fist power and the purple monument, the mountain finally broke, falling down the mountain along with the assassin, disappearing within a blink of an eye. In the next moment, a thunderous sound came out and the mountain, which was supposed to be stable, tilted to one side. Obviously, it was broken by the assassin's self-explosion. How powerful was that? Fortunately, all 3 of them knew how to fly for a short period of time, so they leapt up into the air. The 3 of them looked down. The mountain had collapsed, the airflow was chaotic, and countless broken rocks had completely buried the assassin, forming a small hill-sized pile of rocks. So dangerous. I didn't think that he had also learned the blood devil body separating magic. Lu Hanshan was still a little scared. Yi Chen said, Taoist Master Blood Demon is also one of the ghost generals of the 9 evil cult? Indeed, Master Blood Demon is ranked even higher than Corpse Man among the 108 ghost warriors of the 9 ghost cult. 50 years ago, he was a core disciple of the Evil Blood Martial School. Later on, he left the Evil Blood Martial School and joined the 9 ghost cult. His power is world-shaking, and he is called Master Blood Demon. Yi Chen had already become numb to the power of the 9 ghost cult. Just 108 ghost warriors were already this powerful, so there must be even more powerful leaders above them. However, he did not know how many of them had died, and how many of them had survived. He also did not know if those who had survived were like the Corpse Man, trying to make a comeback. Retreat. Seeing that the black-clothed bladesman was dead, the black-clothed leader knew that he could not do anything to the Flowing Cloud sect. He knocked back the first elder with a palm strike and shouted coldly at another person. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 2 of them were extremely powerful. Although they couldn't defeat the first elder and the 4th elder, it was still very easy for them to escape. In the blink of an eye, they were already several miles away. The 4th elder was about to give chase, but was stopped by the first elder. Don't chase a cornered enemy, not to mention that even if you catch up with them, you won't be able to do anything to them. Great, these two should be the top-grade ghost guards of the Ghost Corpse Mountain, right? The fourth elder had been fighting for a long time. His blood was boiling. He couldn't wait to start another fight. The first elder said, "On the 8th of August, there will be a lot of fights. I'm just afraid that you might get bored." "How come?" The two of them flashed across the air and arrived next to Yi-chan and the other two. Seeing the three of them safe and sound, the first elder let out a sigh of relief, nodded and said, "Not bad being able to survive such a dangerous fight. When we go back, we will definitely be able to reach a higher level." Lu Hanshan asked First Elder, "What is going on? Is the Ghost Corpse Mountain preparing to launch an attack on those top-grade institutions?" The First Elder said, "Not yet. I think they are just trying to weaken the powers of those institutions. However, we don't know how long this situation can last. Perhaps in 1 or 2 years the corpse man will be able to recover his peak power, and that will be the time when the war starts." 1 or 2 years, it's too urgent. Lu Hanshan frowned. The fourth elder grinned and said, "Even if the sky falls down, there will always be someone taller to hold it up. The Emerald Martial Palace is even more anxious than us. Not to mention, no matter how powerful the Ghost Corpse Mountain is, we don't have to be afraid of them. Every top-grade institution has a great elder who is in a life-or-death training. Once the institution faces a crisis, they will definitely come out." "Great elder." Yi-chen's heart skipped a beat. Judging from the fourth elder's tone, he seemed to be even more powerful than the leader of the institution. Wasn't that an astral-reaching realm martial artist? No wonder the Ghost Corpse man didn't dare to offend the 5 top-grade institutions, and was even hiding in the shadows. He must be afraid that the great elders of those top-grade institutions would come and hunt him down. The few of them didn't forget about the wind vulture. They started to search for it together. Next to a pile of rocks, the wind vulture was lying on the ground, with a horrifying blade wound on its body. It was bleeding profusely. At the moment it was trying to stand up, but the wound was way too severe. The head elder sighed. He took out tins of bottles of medicine from his storage ring, unplugged the corks and activated his Zhan Qi. He mixed the bottles of medicine together and sprinkled them evenly on the wind vulture's wound. Visibly, the bleeding stopped, and the flesh and blood began to wriggle, as if they were going to merge together. "We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's find a place to settle down first. The institution will send another wind vulture to pick us up." While talking, the storage ring on the head elder's finger flashed with a dim light, and a wooden crow appeared in his hand. The crow was made from hundreds of pieces of black wood, and looked very lifelike. Its eyeballs were like soybean-sized gems shining brightly. Crack! The head elder pressed some kind of button, and a hole appeared on the crow's belly, which seemed to be a groove. A milky white soul stone was stuffed into the crow's belly by the head elder. If Yi-chan guessed it right, this must be a precious mid-rank soul stone, which was equal to 50 low-rank soul stones. The wooden crow's eyes shone with a red light. It flapped its wings and flew towards the Sky Cloud Martial School. Seeing Yi-chen's expression, the head elder smiled and explained, "This is a puppet crow, one of the creations of the Puppet Martial School, which was a rank 5 institution 5,000 years ago. It can travel over 30,000 miles a day, only a little bit slower than the wind vulture. Its power source is soul stones, but they must be mid-rank soul stones. Low-rank soul stones can't support it for long." "Can it know the way?" Yi-chen asked. The head elder shook his head and responded, "This is confidential, I can't tell you." The group of people settled down in a city thousands of miles away. 3 days and 4 nights later, people from the Sky Cloud Martial School arrived, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 of them. A large group of inner elders rode on 4 wind vultures. They boarded the wind vultures and headed for the Sky Cloud Martial School that very night. Under the waterfall, a man was sitting on a huge rock with his legs crossed. The man's upper body was naked, and his muscular back was as straight as a sword, full of indescribable sharpness. No matter how hard the waterfall slammed on his back, it couldn't make him bend even a little bit. Rumble! The sound of the waterfall seemed to be getting louder and louder. It even resounded for miles. Right at this moment, the man raised his right arm. He didn't seem to use much of his strength, but the waterfall suddenly rose up into the sky, forming a huge water sword. shining with a colorful light under the sunlight. It was dazzling. Go! With a cold shout, the huge water sword pierced towards the mountain next to him. Crack! A huge hole was created on the solid mountain, and the huge water sword also shattered into pieces, turning back into water and gushing out of the hole. Phew! The man slowly let out a breath, turned around and stood up. It was Yi Chen. He smiled. It had been a couple of days since he had returned to the Sky Cloud Martial School. During these days he didn't do anything but cultivate under the waterfall. Today he had finally made a breakthrough. Originally, with his cultivation, he wouldn't be able to turn a waterfall into a huge water sword. He would need to be at least a clasping Yuan realm martial artist to do so, because only clasping Yuan realm martial artists could have such a great amount of Zhan Qi. However, with the help of his half-step sword intent, which was infinitely close to the sword intent, he had succeeded. After a while, the smile on Yi Chen's face disappeared, and he let out a long sigh. Learning the sword intent is way more difficult than I thought. Without any opportunities, I would probably be stuck in this level for a long time. I really don't know how I can learn it. Yi Chen could almost feel the existence of the sword intent. It was like a great sword in the room, and all he needed to do was to open the door curtain slightly, then he would be able to go in and take the sword out for his own use. However, although he could see the existence of the curtain and the great sword, he felt like he was in a dream, as he could not touch the curtain at all. Every time he tried to touch the curtain, he would only touch the air. The more impatient he was, the harder it would be to touch it. Sometimes Yi Chen even thought that it was an illusion, and that he was not actually close to the sword intent. However, he denied it. Although the mirror flower water moon was an illusion, there was no real flower and moon, so how could it be real? Although he couldn't learn the sword intent, Yi Chen wasn't disappointed. Some things couldn't be begged for. When the time was right, it would naturally appear in front of him. Of course, other than the problem of the sword intent, everything else went smoothly. In these few days, Yi Chen had not only stabilized his late condensing reality realm cultivation, he had also completely digested all the experience he had gained in the past few days, and turned it into his own fighting power. The Sky Cloud Sword Art, the Tyrant Fist Art and the Crane Shadow Steps. These three martial arts that he had been using for a long time had been upgraded to the next level. He could now use them as he pleased, without any restrictions. Now, even if Yi Chen didn't use the one sword art, he could still fight against Sherpatian, who had trained two powerful martial arts. This was undoubtedly a huge improvement. Sherpatian was a well-known child-level martial artist. Being able to fight against him meant that Yi Chen's pure power had also reached the child level. He was almost at the peak of the young generation in the Windy Nation. If he used the one sword art, perhaps only young Master North Snow, young Master Duanmu and Fast Blade Lynch would be able to compete with him. Of course, it would be best if he didn't use the one sword art. After all, his own power was the most important thing. Chapter 137. Ah! Brother Yi, we didn't know you were here. Just as Yi Chen was thinking, three female disciples appeared not far away. They were all about 13 or 14 years old, looking very energetic. Seeing Yi Chen's naked upper body, they immediately turned their heads away with blushing faces. Yi Chen forced a smile. In his world, a naked man was not a big deal, but this world was different. His storage ring shone with a dim light, and clean clothes appeared in his hand. After putting on the clothes, Yi Chen asked, "Are you looking for a place to train?" "Yeah." "Brother Yi, why are you taking a bath here?" The round-faced female disciple was the cutest among them. She was the only one who did not turn her head away, but the other two covered her eyes. "I am training. If you don't mind, I will let you have this place." After saying that, Yi Chen jumped up and landed on top of the waterfall. After a couple of flashes, he disappeared without a trace. "Haha, I told you that Brother Yi is a nice guy, but you didn't believe me. Brother Yi has a nice body, and he is very powerful." Sister disciples, why did Brother Yi run away? Going to the floating cloud palace once every 3 days had become a habit of Yi Chen's. Actually, he did not have to take on a mission every time he went there, but he could see some of the big and small things happening in the Windy Nation from the mission list, which was much better than not knowing what was going on outside. Passing by the ranking jade wall, Yi Chen turned his head to take a look. His name was still the first on the third row, and the first and second rows were the 24 core disciples. Of course, if he wanted to, he could become a core disciple anytime he wanted, and his ranking would be very high, at least in the top 4. However, he did not plan to do so yet, because he did not have much confidence in fighting against the hidden scent sword Zhu Mei, unless he performed the one-sword attack. If I can't become the number 1 core disciple, then there is no point. Shaking his head, Yi Chan was about to enter the floating cloud palace. Look, Brother Mengchong is back. I heard that he took on a 3-star black rank mission this time. Seems like he has already completed it. Compared to the inner disciple ranking competition, senior brother Mengchong has improved a lot. I wonder how he compares to senior brother Yi Chan? The surrounding inner disciples discussed among themselves, and their gazes were focused on Mengchong, who had just returned. Mengchong didn't care that he had become the center of attention. He said to Yi Chan, who was standing at the entrance of the floating cloud palace, "Let's fight on the Martial Plaza. I hope you can improve." Yi Chan turned around. "As you wish." Not challenging others was one thing, but when someone came to challenge you, you generally wouldn't refuse. Furthermore, even if you refused, you had to have a good reason. Otherwise, if everyone refused, then what would be the point of the ranking jade wall? There would be no competition. As soon as he finished speaking, the surroundings boiled over. Senior brother Mengchong is fighting against senior brother Yi Chan again. Shocking news. Quickly go inform the other senior brothers and junior brothers. It's been more than a month, and both senior brothers have improved. The duel will definitely be more exciting. It seems like senior brother Mengchong doesn't plan to become a core disciple if he doesn't defeat senior brother Yi Chan. Soon, most of the Sky Cloud Martial School's inner disciples had heard about this news. Without saying anything, they immediately rushed to the Martial Plaza. Within a short period of time, the Martial Plaza was filled with thousands of people. Among them, 200 to 300 were inner disciples who didn't go to do any tasks. Outer disciples made up 80% of the crowd, and a few core disciples were also there. They all wanted to see how powerful Yi Chan and Mengchong were. On the central platform, Yi Chan and Mengchong slowly walked onto the platform. "I haven't seen you for more than a month. If your improvement is not obvious, then I am afraid you will lose to me." Mengchong's aura was even more reserved. Yi Chan glanced at his opponent, shook his head and said, "You have indeed improved, but you are getting further and further away from me." "Huh." Mengchong sneered. "You will know after the duel. You will take back your words." A gust of wind blew. Yi Chen's clothes and hair were fluttering in the wind. He said, "Let's begin." Chin. Taking out his long blade, Mengchong stomped on the ground and flew towards Yi Chan like a lightning. Bloodlight. On his way, Mengchong held his long blade with both of his hands and quickly waved it. Because of his fast speed, his arms seemed to have disappeared into the air. Only the blood-red blade light could be seen, covering the entire platform and completely sealing the space where Yi Chan was. He couldn't back out, he couldn't move forward, and he couldn't dodge. There was only one way left, which was to fight. So powerful. I wonder how senior brother Yi Chan is going to fight? I guess he will have to fight. If senior brother Mengchong was as powerful as he is now, he would definitely be the number 1 inner disciple again. Of course, if he beats senior brother Yi Chan this time, he will still be the number 1 inner disciple. They can't be that easy. Senior brother Yi Chan has been to the Emerald Martial Palace, he has seen a lot of things. How could he not have improved? Most of the people still didn't know that Yi Chan had beaten Changjun and Sherpadian. Only those core disciples knew a little bit about it. Of course, in a day or two, Yi Chen's story would definitely be spread out. How big of a commotion would it cause? When the blood-red blade light reached its peak, Yi Chan threw out his sword. Shoo! No one saw how Yi Chan threw out his sword. They only saw a thin white line of sword chi flash across. Yi Chen's figure had already passed through the blood-red blade light and appeared behind Mengchong. Dang! Swoosh! The long blade flew out of Mengchong's hand and stabbed into a stone pillar. It was not over yet. Mengchong's clothes had also been cut open. The cut was extremely small. Putting the hidden cloud sword back into its scabbard, Yi Chan said lightly, "Your blade skill is not bad. Unfortunately, I have already reached a higher level. You will not be able to compete with me anymore. Too powerful, way too powerful. I didn't even have the slightest chance to fight back. Even now, I, Meng Chong, am still not his opponent. I wouldn't have believed it before, but now I have no choice but to believe it because it has already happened and it happened to me. Meng Chong's heart was filled with shock. He stood there, stunned. Not only Meng Chong was stunned, all of the inner and outer disciples' eyes were blank, and their mouths were wide open, unable to close. Everyone was completely silent. When they came back to their senses, Yi Chan had already left the Martial Plaza. Damn! What did I just see? Senior brother Yi Chan beat senior brother Meng Chong with only one sword attack. How powerful does he have to be able to do that? What an overwhelming advantage. The gap is so huge. Among all the inner disciples, no one can threaten senior brother Yi Chen's position anymore. Just thinking about it makes my scalp numb. Senior brother Meng Chong beat the top 10 inner disciples with only one sword attack, but senior brother Yi Chan beat Meng Chong with only one sword attack. Hearing the inner disciples' discussions, the few core disciples who were watching the fight looked at each other. Time flew by like water. Another 20 days had passed. It was already August. During this time, Yi Chan had never stopped improving. His Zhanqi cultivation was getting closer to the peak of the late condensing reality realm, and was not far away from Lu Hanshan and the others. As for his sword skills, even he himself didn't know what level he had reached. Perhaps, he would only be able to find out if he fought against some child-level young martial artists. Compared to his personal improvement, something big had happened in the Windy Nation. One of the top 5 institutions, the Purple Sun Martial School, had a spy. This spy was an inner elder, but his real identity was actually a powerful warrior under the command of the Ghost Corpse Man. He had been hiding in the Purple Sun Martial School for 15 years, but recently, for some unknown reason, he had betrayed the Purple Sun Martial School and killed an inner elder and 3 outer elders, which had shocked all the powerful forces in the Windy Nation. Yi Chun didn't know what had happened, but the core members of all the institutions knew it clearly. The plan to encircle the Ghost Corpse Mountains branch on the 8th of August had failed, and the reason was because of that spy from the Purple Sun Martial School. He knew that they were going to encircle the Ghost Corpse Mountains branch, so he secretly sent a message to the Ghost Corpse Mountain. But he didn't expect that he would be discovered by another inner elder, and then a fight broke out between them. After that, 3 outer elders came to help, and 4 of them fought against 1. However, this spy was indeed powerful. He killed all 4 of them within a short period of time. In the main hall of the Sky Cloud Martial School. At this moment, all the inner elders were discussing something else. Leader, the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is about to open in October. We should also decide which disciples will participate in it, so that we can prepare in advance. The one who spoke was the 4th elder. Luo Xinglia glanced at the crowd and asked, "Do you have any good suggestions?" The head elder cleared his throat and said, "The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region only opens once every 10 years. It's a rare opportunity. After each trial, nearly 1/10 of the young generation will step into the clasping Yuan realm. Therefore, we have to send our best disciples. Of course, our Sky Cloud Martial School is only a rank 9 institution. We only have 4 quotas. Therefore, I think Zhu Mei and Luo Hanshan must go, plus Su Jing." "What about the other one?" Someone frowned. The 4th elder said, "I think Yi Chun is a good choice." The head elder nodded. He had the same idea. Hearing him, a few inner elders immediately shook their heads. Although Yi Chun is very talented, and he has already comprehended the half-step sword intent, he is obviously not as powerful as the others. It doesn't make sense to let him go. You're right, the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is an ancient place. Every quota is extremely precious. How can we waste it? We have to send the disciples who have the opportunity to break into the clasping Yuan realm. I think Tao Xiaofeng, who is ranked 3rd among the core disciples, is a good choice. Jingju, who is ranked 4th, is also a good choice. The head elder glanced at the others and said, Tao Xiaofeng and Jingju are indeed good, but they are not the most talented ones. Even if they managed to step into the clasping Yuan realm, they would only be considered as elites. They would not be able to kill people who are at a higher level than them. However, Yi Chun has already comprehended the half-step sword intent. He will definitely be able to comprehend the true sword intent one day. Once he steps into the clasping Yuan realm, what do you think about his fighting power? The few who disagreed couldn't find any words to refute. At this moment, Luo Xinglia said, The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is located in the desert between the 9 nations, hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Sky Cloud Martial School. Let's not waste any more time. Let's leave in half a month. The quotas are Zhu Mei, Luo Hanshan, Su Jing, and Yi Chun. Hearing the last 2 words, the 4th elder and the head elder glanced at each other and smiled. Chapter 138. The Emerald Martial Palace. In the meeting hall, Zhuang Qingxian, who was sitting on the head seat, pondered for a while, then said, Elder Lan, you mean we don't have to send our best disciples? Elder Lan was the head elder of the Emerald Martial Palace. He was already 80 years old. Although he was not very talented, he was still an indispensable pillar of the Emerald Martial Palace. However, in the recent 10 years, because of his old age, he had become more and more conservative. He was one of the few people who opposed the idea of the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region. Leader, our Emerald Martial Palace is now the dominator of the Windy Nation. We don't have to take the risk. The death rate in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is extremely high. 30 years ago, 645 disciples from the 9 nations went in, and only 450 came out. 20 years ago, 630 disciples went in, and only 370 came out. The death rate is getting higher and higher every year. I'm afraid that this time, more than half of the disciples will die. Hearing Elder Lan's words, those inner elders who were about to persuade Elder Lan all became silent. Indeed, it was a fact that the death rate in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region was very high. If the most talented disciples of the valley were sent into the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, if they were unlucky, more than half of them might die. To the Emerald Martial Palace, this would be a heavy blow. A radical inner elder stood up and said, Leader Elder Lan, you can't say that. We can't be afraid of the high death rate. If I'm not wrong, the other 4 institutions will definitely send their best disciples there. As long as these disciples can come out alive, they will be much more powerful than before. They might even break through to the Clasping Yuan realm. By then, the advantage of the younger generation of our Emerald Martial Palace will be gone. Elder Lu is right. It's time for the younger generation to see some blood. If there is an empty quota, I'm willing to send my nephew in. The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region only opens once every 10 years. It's a rare opportunity, we can't waste it. Among the disciples who survive in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, 10% of them will break through to the Clasping Yuan realm, which means 30 out of 300 disciples will become Clasping Yuan realm warriors. The second elder, who was standing next to Elder Lan, opened his mouth. Leader, I think we can make a compromise. The Emerald Martial Palace is a rank 7 institution, and we have 8 quotas. Out of the 8 quotas, we can send 4 of our best geniuses, and the remaining 4 can be sent to the Emerald Martial Palace. In this way, even if we lose a lot of people, we won't be hurt too badly. Hearing this, Zhuang Qingxian was a bit tempted. Since the Emerald Martial Palace was the overlord of the Windy Nation, there was indeed no need for them to put all their eggs in one basket. It would be best to have the best of both worlds. Then how do you think the quota should be allocated? Zhuang Qingxian asked. The second elder glanced at Elder Lan and said, Our head disciple Zhuang Fei has to go. He is an early Clasping Yuan realm martial artist. He is powerful enough to compete with ordinary mid-Clasping Yuan realm martial artists. With him, the survival of our Emerald Martial Palace's disciples will be more guaranteed. As far as I know, the Rudra Nation has the most Clasping Yuan realm martial artists among the young generation, 4 of them. The White Mystery Nation and the Sky Serpent Nation have 3 each. The other 5 nations are the same as our Windy Nation. They all have 1 or 2 Clasping Yuan realm martial artists. We have to be careful. At this moment, even Elder Lan nodded. Apparently, he agreed with the second elder. The second elder continued, Lu Wuxiang and Jishuan have to go as well. They have a great chance to step into the Clasping Yuan realm. Shirpatian hasn't fully recovered yet. He will stay in the Emerald Martial Palace. Lu Xian, who is ranked 5th among the core disciples, will go with the other 4 core disciples who are not in the top 10. Zhuang Qingxian was quite satisfied with the second elder's plan. He said, All right, the quota for the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region has been decided. There is no need to discuss further. In the North Snow Martial Academy, in the conference hall, Xue Warren held his hands behind his back and said, There is nothing to discuss about this. The 8 quotas must be given to the best disciples. I don't want to wait for another 10 years. Just like his blade skills, Shui was always decisive. He would never change his mind. Everyone smiled bitterly and left the hall. After a while, 8 young men walked in. The 3 in the lead were a gentle young man in a white robe, North Snow Fast Blade Lynch and Tyrant Blade Yu. Leader. All of them greeted him politely. Shui nodded and said, I didn't ask you to come here for any other reason. I just want you to know about the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, and what you should pay attention to. The gentle young man asked, Leader, is it true that the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region cannot be seen with the naked eye? The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is located in a space crack. It is not open yet. Indeed, it cannot be seen with the naked eye, not even with the spiritual power. This time, when you enter the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, you should remember to stop while you're ahead, and focus on steadily improving your power. Don't be greedy, and don't become the target of everyone. You should know that an innocent man will get into trouble because of his treasures. If you have something that makes others jealous, you should either kill them immediately or throw it away. The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region had many treasures, such as magical weapons, natural medicines, and secret manuals. The reason why the 5 top-ranked institutions had become more and more powerful was because they would send a batch of disciples into the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region every 10 years. After they came back, the number of treasures and secret manuals in their institutions would increase. Of course, they wouldn't just contribute to the institutions for free. The leaders of the institutions would reward them with spirit stones according to the value of those treasures. In the yard, Yi-chan was sitting under a tree with his legs crossed, without moving even a little bit. This tree was a common dark tree in the windy mountain. It had started to shed its leaves in July, and now it was already mid-September. Its leaves were falling very fast. Even if it was only a slight breeze, 3 to 4 leaves would fall down. A couple of hours later, Yi-chan's hair and clothes were covered with dozens of withered leaves. From far away from the yard came a series of light footsteps, which were getting closer and closer. Is Yi-chan in? Excuse me, is Yi-chan in? Creak. The man called out for a few times, but no one responded, so he pushed open the door and walked in. The one who came in was an executor disciple, who used to be an inner disciple. According to the rules of the institution, if an inner disciple failed to step into the clasping yuan realm before the age of 24, he or she would have to transfer to the steward's hall and become a fighting or non-fighting member of the institution. Of course, once an inner disciple stepped into the clasping yuan realm, he or she could also become an outer elder, which was the most important thing. This executor disciple was about 25 years old, and was at the peak of the late condensing reality realm. Compared to most of the inner disciples, he or she was quite powerful, almost as powerful as the top 10 inner disciples. Soon he saw Yi-chan, who was sitting under the tree with his legs crossed, and slightly frowned. When a martial artist was cultivating, he or she was not allowed to be disturbed. If he or she was interrupted at a critical moment, the other party might even want to kill him or her. The executor disciple smiled helplessly, stood aside and waited, without making any sound. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of wind blew across, and tens of withered leaves fell down, fluttering in the air. At this moment, Yi-chan opened his eyes, which were shining with a sharp light. When the executor disciple was about to say something, he saw an amazing scene. He saw Yi-chan glance at the fallen leaves in front of him, as if they had been cut by an invisible sharp blade. They suddenly split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and all of a sudden, the leaves turned into dust. Sword intent. The legendary sword intent. The executor disciple screamed in his mind. Although he was just an ordinary executor disciple, it did not mean that he was not knowledgeable. Whether it was in the ancient books or by word of mouth, a sword artist who had mastered the sword intent could use invisible things to hurt people. For example, by giving a strand of sword intent to the air, it could be extremely lethal. Just now, Yi-chan had used his eyes to infuse the sword intent into the air in front of him and easily cut the leaves. What's the matter? Standing up, Yi-chan shook off the leaves on his body and asked. The executor disciple said respectfully, Headmaster wants to see you. Lead the way then. Yi-chan looked very calm. These days, his desire for the sword intent was not that urgent anymore. Every day, after he finished his training, He would sit under a big tree and meditate for a while. He would go into Taishu and forget about everything around him. Perhaps it was because of this kind of transcendent mentality that he had broken through the half-step sword intent and finally mastered the real sword intent that every sword artist dreamed of. No matter it was his aura or his soul, they had all been improved. As for what level he had reached, he was still not sure yet. Yes, the executor disciple said with a humble tone. Normally, he did not need to flatter the inner disciples or the core disciples, but when facing Yi Chun, he naturally showed his respect. It was not surprising, after all. In this true spirit continent, powerful warriors were always respected. Even the most talented geniuses would have to show some respect in front of powerful warriors who were at a very high level. Otherwise, they would just be acting recklessly and could be killed at any time. Being led by the executor disciple, Yi Chun arrived at the lobby. In the lobby, Zhu Mei, Luo Hanshan and Su Jing were all there. Sitting next to them were some inner elders, and the leader of the school, Luo Xinglia, was sitting in the front seat. Leader, elders. Yi Chun cupped his hands and bowed. Luo Xinglia nodded. Tomorrow is the time to go to the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region. Before that, I want to tell you that the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is very complicated. There might be palaces in the mountains, there might be tombs in the water, and there might even be treasures under the ground. There are countless ways to get in. Sometimes a big tree might be the entrance, sometimes you need to move a huge rock, sometimes you just need to jump down from the mountain. All in all, anything can happen in there. You have to stay calm and don't panic. Yes. Yi Chun and the other three nodded. Luo Xinglia continued. There are a lot of treasures in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, and countless secret manuals. Obviously, we can't ask you to contribute for nothing. Therefore, according to the value of the things you contribute, the school will give you a certain amount of spirit stones. For example, a top-ranked Mortal Realm secret manual can be exchanged for 50 low-ranked spirit stones. A low-ranked Earth Realm secret manual can be exchanged for 3,000 low-ranked spirit stones. A mid-ranked Earth Realm secret manual is extremely rare. Even in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, it can be exchanged for 3,000 mid-ranked spirit stones. The same goes for other treasures and medicines. Of course, if you contribute those secret manuals to the school, you can still cultivate them yourself, but you can't teach them to others. Do you understand? Understood. Although he knew that these things were worth a lot of spirit stones, Yi Chun was still shocked. It seemed like the school was going to spend a lot of money this time. However, the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region was not a playground. All the disciples from the 9 nations had gone in, so it was normal to kill each other. Especially the disciples who had great treasures, they had to be extra careful. Chapter 139. Early the next morning, the group set off. This time, the escort team was especially large, consisting of 10 inner elders and 50 outer elders, riding on 8 wind eagles, piercing through the clouds. 3 days later, the wind eagles left the Windy Nation and reached the border of the Windy Nation. Outside the Windy Nation, there are always dangers. Everyone be careful. The head elder activated his Zhanqi and shouted coldly. Yes. Some of the elders who had been to the South Shore region understood. The wind eagles were extremely strong and had a strong beast qi. Carrying 8 people on its back was like carrying nothing, but flying at a supersonic speed, any human body would feel tired. Normally, after 2 days, the head elder would find a place to rest and continue the journey the next day. Crack! Lightning bolts flashed across the sky like snakes. Above the layer of clouds, the wind vulture was flying calmly. It was a 5th-grade flying beast, and it was only allowed to fly during a thunderstorm. Not to mention that the heaven-shocking sky was over 10,000 meters away from them, and it wouldn't be a big deal if it was struck by some lightning bolts. Lu Hanshan raised his head and looked around, then laughed and said, "It is said that there are 3 layers of the sky. The first layer is called the shocking sky, which contains the 4 extreme yuan qi of thunder, water, fire and wind. It is extremely violent. Only astral-reaching realm martial artists would be able to go up there. Above that is the second layer, the extreme void. Not even astral-reaching realm martial artists can go up there. Only Sea of Souls realm martial artists can go up there. The top layer is called the top sky. Except for life and death realm martial artists, anyone who goes up there would only be death, even their souls would be destroyed. Absolute sky, extreme sky, top sky." Yi Chun glanced at Su Jing and said, "Sister Su Jings, Golden Three Realm art should be based on these 3 layers of the sky, right? Su Jing responded blandly. How can the Golden Three Realm art compare with the 3 layers of the sky? It's just a name, it's far from comparable. Puff! A lightning bolt suddenly struck towards Yi Chan and the others, but was snuffed out by the head elder. He said, as long as it's not in the absolute sky, these lightning bolts are not that powerful, don't worry. True Spirit Continent is indeed colorful. There are too many things I don't know. Yi Chan sighed inwardly. In the world he came from, thunder and lightning were horrifying to normal people. Anyone who was struck by a thunder and lightning would basically die. Plus, the thunder and lightning in that world were not even comparable to the thunder and lightning in this world. After all, the natural yuan qi in one world was extremely scarce, while the natural yuan qi in the other world was extremely rich. They were not even on the same level. But right now, a thunder and lightning had been easily destroyed by the headmaster. Below the clouds, it had already begun to rain. Everyone was above the clouds, so there was no need to worry about such things. The wind vulture flew for an unknown period of time, when the airflow in front of it suddenly became chaotic. Visible to the naked eye, a gray wind pillar fell straight down from above. Lightning flashed inside, and the figure in the center could be vaguely seen. Astral Reaching Realm Warrior. Let's take a detour. The head elder's face suddenly changed. He commanded the windy vulture to take a detour, not daring to move forward directly. The wind pillar dissipated, and the lightning was extinguished. A figure suddenly appeared in front of everyone. It was a middle-aged man with sallow skin. He was of average height, and he wore a large blue robe. His long black hair flickered with electricity. He gave off an oppressive feeling, and no one dared to resist. Who are you? The head elder's face turned slightly pale. He cupped his hands and said respectfully, sorry for disturbing you, senior. I am the head elder of the Sky Cloud Martial School in the Windy Nation. Sky Cloud Martial School. The middle-aged man laughed. So it is the martial school of that old bastard Cloud Dreamer. I am his old friend, you can call me Thunder Freer. Thunder Freer. What a powerful name. Yi Chan thought to himself. The head elder relaxed his face. So it is you, Senior Thunder Freer. When I was young, I heard from the great elder that you were famous in the South Shore region with your great heavenly thunder magic. Thunder Freer rolled his eyes. That old bastard Cloud Dreamer always likes to exaggerate. What was I tens of years ago? Back then the 9 evil cult was like the sun in the sky, I couldn't even escape. Oh right, you are going to the scorching ancient desert, right? These few brats are not bad, you should train them well. Yi Chan and the other 3 were the best disciples of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Except for the Emerald Martial Palace, they were not any weaker than the other 3 top-ranked martial institutions in the Windy Nation. Thunder Freer could see through them at first glance. He couldn't help but nod. Thank you, Senior, we are indeed going to the scorching ancient desert. The Heavenly Dream Ancient region only opens once every 10 years. It's a rare opportunity. The head elder was quite old, while Thunder Freer looked like he was less than 50 years old. However, when he stood next to Thunder Freer, the head elder looked like a junior. Alright, I need to continue refining my Zhenqi, you guys go on your way. Thunder Freer waved his sleeves, his body transformed into a bolt of lightning, shooting straight up into the sky, tearing a hole in the air. Crackle! The inside of the hole was bright and sparkling with thunder and lightning. Just looking at it made one's heart tremble with fear. Let's go. The head elder took a deep breath and activated the wind eagle under his feet. On the way, the head elder suddenly said, although Thunder Freer looks less than 50 years old, he is actually over 100 years old. The reason is very simple. If a martial artist who has stepped into the astral reaching realm doesn't have any problems, he can easily live up to 200 years old. Therefore, his real age is twice as old as his appearance. Is it really that hard to reach the next level? Thunder Freer is already over 100 years old, but he still hasn't reached a higher level. Yi Chan was a bit touched. There are countless martial artists on this True Spirit continent. 99% of them are stuck below the clasping Yuan realm, and 99% of the rest are stuck below the astral reaching realm. It's extremely hard to reach a higher level. Of course, there are always exceptions, and there are always some extremely powerful martial artists in every generation. For them, reaching a higher level is as easy as eating or drinking water. For example, Xianhou is the only martial artist who managed to reach the life and death realm in the past 100 years. She is one of the most powerful martial artists in this generation. She became a queen within a few decades. She can even be called a legend. As for those martial geniuses who used to be on the same level as her, although they were not as powerful as her, most of them had already reached the Sea of Souls realm. Zhu Mei, who was wearing a robe embroidered with plum blossoms, laughed and said, "Talent is indeed important, but you also need to have a great adventure. Otherwise, no matter how talented you are, you will never be able to reach the top. Brother Yi, this heavenly dream ancient region is just a chance. If you have a great adventure, you might be able to save yourself many years of training." Yi Chen nodded in agreement. Zhu Mei was right. In order to reach a higher level, you must have a great adventure. In fact, adventures could be categorized as resources. Only with enough resources could you become stronger and stronger. Otherwise, once your potential ran out, you wouldn't be able to reach any higher than ordinary martial artists. In the boundless desert, the sun was shining brightly. The scorching heat had even twisted the air, and the sand was as smooth as a mirror. The scorching ancient desert has existed since the ancient time. The firepower in the air is extremely violent, and storms of firepower are often generated. We shouldn't stay in the clouds, let's go down. Once they reached the sky above the desert, the head elder ordered the 8 wind eagles to fly down into the clouds. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A scorching hot gale blew across. Even though they were protected by their protective zhenqi, they could still feel the heat. After all, this was only the edge of the scorching ancient desert, where the temperature was less than 1/10 of the central desert. One had to admit that sometimes if one was unlucky, one could even drink cold water. After the wind eagles had flown for less than 500 miles, a wave of dazzling fiery light descended from the sky, enveloping the group of people. This is a storm of fire power. Let's break it together. The head elder let out a growl, straightened his body, spread his feet as wide as his shoulders, took a deep breath, then poked his finger towards the sky, then drew a line in the air. Puff! A cloth-tearing noise came out, along with which, a storm of firepower was cut into two by a purple light beam, then scattered in the air. At this moment, the fourth elder didn't dare to move too much. He was a cultivator of firepower, which meant that he might be able to help the storm of firepower. Normally, he would be able to use it to fight against enemies, but right now, if he didn't do anything, the group of people might be turned into grilled meat. The other elders all launched their own attacks, sending out waves of fierce power towards the sky, stopping the storm of fire power from expanding, and gradually destroying it. Yi Chen had also launched a wave of fierce power, but what shocked him was that this wave of fierce power was evaporated before it could even get close to the storm of fire power. After breaking through the storm of fire power, the group of people were soaked in sweat and gasping for breath. The wind eagles down below didn't have a good time either. Some of their feathers had even been burnt, but luckily they weren't hurt. The scorching ancient desert had a radius of 70 to 80,000 miles, much larger than the windy nation. It was said that in the ancient time, this desert was even larger, over 500,000 miles in radius. There was only one country in this desert, which was called the Scorching Ancient Empire. However, the empire had been destroyed, and the desert had been shrinking year by year, until it became what it was now. From far away, the group of people had already seen a cyan beam of light piercing through the air, just like a pillar in the sky. The cyan beam of light has appeared. The heavenly dream ancient region will open in 3 days. Let's go find a place to camp first. The head elder had a great eyesight. He had already seen many people approaching the cyan beam of light. After a while, the wind eagles landed. Yi Chen raised his head. The cyan beam of light was as thick as a mountain. It was indeed gigantic, but he didn't know how it was formed. At the place where the cyan beam of light touched the desert, there was a gigantic gate of light. It was 33 zhang tall and 45 zhang wide, and was tightly closed. Around the cyan beam of light, thousands of people were stationed. They were all wearing different kinds of clothes. Some were wearing yellow robes, some were wearing black robes, some were wearing blue, some were wearing white, and some were purple. The patterns on their sleeves were different, which meant that they were from different martial institutions. At this moment, the people from the Emerald Martial Palace had already arrived. Among all the forces in the Windy Nation, they were the closest to the scorching ancient desert. Of course, this was only relative, hundreds of thousands of miles of distance was necessary. After all, it was 70 to 80,000 miles from the edge of the desert to the center. 8 disciples from the Emerald Martial Palace had arrived, 3 of whom Yi Qian knew. They were the Emerald Child Zhuang Fei, the Palm Absolute Lu Wuxiang and Ji Xuan. Moving his eyes away from the Emerald Martial Palace, Yi Qian's pupils shrank. So many powerful young warriors. Among the hundreds of young disciples from different martial institutions, almost all of them were at the peak of the late condensing reality realm. Over 80% of them were the child-to-be of the Windy Nation, and over 50% were the child level. Among them, tens of them looked as powerful as Lynch. Obviously, they were at the same level as the child North Snow. However, this wasn't enough to surprise Yi Qian. What surprised Yi Qian was that there were quite a lot of clasping Yuan realm young warriors. With a single glance, Yi Qian could already see 7 to 8 of them, and some of them must have not arrived yet. Chapter 140. Lu Hanshan said with a serious face, "Brother Yi, this time we have to be careful when we enter the Heaven Dream Ancient region. There are many young powerful martial artists in the Hidden Dragon ranking this time." Hidden Dragon ranking martial artists? Yi Qian raised his eyebrows. He remembered that Zhuang Fei was ranked 68th in the last Hidden Dragon ranking, but of course he was only at the peak of the late condensing reality realm back then. Lu Hanshan said, "In the last Hidden Dragon ranking, all the martial artists ranked below the top 50 were at the peak of the late condensing reality realm, the top 50 were at the early clasping Yuan realm, the top 10 were at the peak of the early clasping Yuan realm, and the top 3 were at the mid clasping Yuan realm. They represent the top young martial artists of the South Shore region, and they are even more powerful than the older generation. Especially the top 3. I heard that they are as powerful as the 5 leaders of our Windy Nation." The top 3 are as powerful as the 5 leaders of our Windy Nation? Not only Yi Qian, even Zhu Mei and Su Jing's expressions changed. They all looked at Lu Hanshan. He was the only one from the Sky Cloud Martial School who had participated in the Hidden Dragon ranking in the last 10 years, although he was eliminated in the end. Lu Hanshan nodded heavily. "You have never watched the Hidden Dragon ranking, so you don't know how powerful they are. The top 10 of the Hidden Dragon ranking are qualified to be called the top martial geniuses of the South Shore region, and the top 3 are already qualified to compete for the title of Peerless Genius. If they have great luck, they might even reach the Sea of Souls realm, or even the Life and Death realm in the future. They are the most powerful generation in the South Shore region in the last 100 years. Are they really that powerful?" Zhu Mei was a nice person. As the head disciple, she didn't act like the head disciple. She just frowned after hearing Lu Hanshan's words. "You won't believe it even if I tell you now, but you have to know that the top 3 of the Hidden Dragon ranking come from the top 3 countries of the South Shore region. They are all extremely talented, and have been training martial arts that are way more powerful than ours. They never lack resources. From these 3 aspects you can imagine how powerful they are. Compared to them, I am still not powerful enough." Yi Qian let out a breath and asked, "Brother Luo, who are these Hidden Dragon ranking martial artists?" Lu Hanshan glanced at the crowd in the east and said, "The one who is wearing blood-red clothes with golden edges is Wuxia, the head disciple of the Evil Blood Martial School. He is 22 this year, and he is ranked 54 in the last Hidden Dragon rank. People call him One Blade, Bloodless. I heard that he has already reached the clasping Luo and has Shan." I said, "Luo and he have reached the Shan." Yi Qian followed Luo Hanshan's line of sight. 700 meters to the east, surrounded by 7 disciples in blood-red robes, a pale-faced young man was especially eye-catching. He was wearing a blood-red robe with golden edges, and had a tall and slim body. He looked noble, but also had an evil and murderous aura, which made him look extremely dangerous. "This guy is terrifying." Yi Qian's soul power was amazing, and he was able to distinguish different kinds of auras. With just one glance, he could tell that Wuxia was even more powerful than Zhuang Fei. If Zhuang Fei was a tiger that had yet to show its power, then Wuxia would be a giant serpent that had been lying in ambush. Once Wuxia launched his attack, his enemies would be killed. Afraid of being noticed by Wuxia, Luo Hanshan quickly moved his eyes away and looked at the second person in the northeast. This guy is called Yuan Heng-ing, the head disciple of the Sky Eagle Castle, a rank 7 institution in the Rudra Nation. He is 23 years old, ranked 59 in the last hidden dragon rank. People call him Killer Eagle. He is as powerful as Wuxia, but he is extremely cruel. Wuxia kills for the sake of killing, while Yuanhenging kills for pleasure. Both of them are murderous monsters. It is said that countless people have died in their hands. This time Yichun immediately found Yuanhenging. It was not that Yuanhengying's cultivation was higher than Wuxia's, in fact, he was slightly weaker than Wuxia's. It was just that the murderous aura released from Yuanhengying's body was way too strong. It meant that the murderous aura released from Yuanhengying's body was so strong that it couldn't be hidden at all. There was an old saying in the True Spirit continent, kill 1,000 enemies, and the murderous aura will fill the entire land. It meant that the murderous aura released from Yuanhengying's body had already spread all over the land. The murderous aura could not only increase one's fighting power, it could also oppress one's opponent mentally. The only disciple from the Sky Cloud Martial School who had completed the 1,000 kill was Meng Chong. His real power was not that much higher than the others, but the murderous aura released from his body had made his blade art even more powerful. Usually, he would be able to kill his enemies with only one blade attack. However, compared to Yuanhenging, it was like a chicken in front of an eagle. They were not even on the same level. Rubbing his nose, Yichun thought to himself, this is a real murderous monster. He has killed over 10,000 people. However, Wuxia was not bad either. The killing intent released from his body had almost turned into an evil aura. No matter what, he had killed at least 6,000 to 7,000 fresh human lives. Uncontrollably, Yichun let out a bitter smile. Up until now, he had killed less than 50 people, most of them were killed during missions. Yichun had been staring at Yuanhenging for a long time. Yuanhenging, who was wearing a dark cloak, turned his head and grinned. His white teeth shone with a cold light under the sunlight. Both Lu Hanzhan and Zhu Mei let out a muffled moan. Their faces slightly paled. Yuanhengying's evil aura was way too strong. Even with just a single glance, it would make people feel as if they were looking at a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. People with weak willpower might even spit out a mouthful of blood. Otherwise, the evil aura would accumulate in their bodies and hurt their minds. What was strange was that Su Jing didn't react at all to Yuanhengying's cold and creepy look. Her face was still as bland as water. As for Yichun, he had already mastered the sword intent. As long as he didn't hurt people, it would be impossible for Yuanhenging to hurt him with the evil aura. Once the sword intent was released, no evil could harm him, it could even cut through the void. Yuanhenging was a bit surprised. Among the 4 people, only 2 of them were affected by his gaze, the other 2 were completely unaffected. If they were clasping Yuan realm warriors it would be fine, but these 2 were obviously only at the late condensing reality realm. Yuanhenging licked his lips. This kind of person was more interesting to kill. After a while, Lu Hanzhan finally calmed himself down. He didn't dare to look at Yuanhenging anymore. He continued to introduce the other young hidden dragon-ranked martial artist to Yichun. Kai Yueyao, the head disciple of the Yuehua Martial School, a rank 7 institution in the Rudra Nation, ranked 64th in the last hidden dragon rank. People call her the Moonlight Phoenix. Her weapon is the Water Moon Thorn. She is good at piercing through enemies with a single point. It is extremely powerful. Lu Zhao, the head disciple of the White Mystery Nation's rank 7 institution, the White Deer Martial School, ranked 61st in the last hidden dragon rank. People call him the White Colt Fleeting. He is ranked in the top 30 in the last hidden dragon rank. People call him the 1,000 pounds palm. His palm strength is as great as a mountain. People who are weaker than him will be crushed with just one touch. They won't even have the ability to fight back. Hong Qianjun, the head disciple of the White Mystery Nation's rank 7 institution, the Multiple Mountain Martial School, ranked 69th in the last hidden dragon rank. People call him the 1,000 pounds palm. His palm strength is as great as a mountain. People call him the 1,000 pounds palm. Xue Hen, the head disciple of the Sky Serpent Nation's rank 7 institution, the Shapeless Martial School, ranked 57th in the last hidden dragon rank. People call him the Traceless Hand. This person's killer moves are invisible most of the time. His opponent is already dead. They still don't know how he did it, therefore, those who have fought against him are all terrified. And after introducing 8 people in one breath, Luo Hanzhan finally stopped and said, there are 3 big countries in the South Shore region, 10 mid-sized countries and 24 small countries. This time there are a lot of disciples from 9 countries, but there are only 13 people in the hidden dragon rank. Rudra Nation, as the leader of the 24 small countries, has 4 people. The White Mystery Nation and the Sky Serpent Nation are not as good as the Rudra Nation, they only have 3 people each. Our Windy Nation's young master Emerald Zhuangfei has 11 people in total, and the other 5 small countries only have 2 people. But of course the hidden dragon rank was released 1.5 years ago. We don't know how many powerful martial artists have shown up now. Maybe there will be more young clasping Yuan realm warriors appearing in our sight. The Rudra Nation was not an ordinary country. Since a long time ago, Yichan had already known that the Rudra Nation was famous for producing geniuses. As the leader of the 24 small countries, the number of geniuses in the Rudra Nation was even more than the average mid-sized countries. It should be known that a mid-sized country's area was at least 5 times bigger than a small country's. There were countless martial institutions in the country, and the competition was extremely cruel. Zhu Mei nodded and said, among the hidden dragon rank, the top 3 countries have taken 40%, the top 10 mid-sized countries have taken 30%, and the 24 small countries have taken 30%. Rudra Nation alone has taken nearly 25% of the hidden dragon rank. Even among the mid-sized countries they could still be ranked in the top 4, and they are famous in the whole South Shore region. But none of the young hidden dragon rank warriors here seem to be in the top 50. Yichan suddenly said. Zhu Mei and Luo Hanshan glanced at Yichan with a weird expression. Luo Hanshan forced a smile and said, Brother Yi, haven't you noticed? 90% of the people who made it into the hidden dragon rank are the head disciples of rank 7 martial institutions. There are only 1 or 2 rank 8 martial institutions, and none of the rank 9 martial institutions. And the rank 7 martial institutions are also divided into different levels. The Emerald Martial Palace and the North Snow Martial Academy can only be counted as a normal rank 7 martial institution in the whole South Shore region. The Evil Blood Martial School, Sky Eagle Castle Martial School, and Yuehua Martial School in the Rudra Nation are all mid-sized rank 7 martial institutions. The truly powerful martial institutions are mostly in the mid-sized countries. Therefore, although they do not have an advantage in the number of disciples, the quality of their martial institutions is much better, and they are able to make it into the top 50 of the hidden dragon rank. The top 3 countries are even more powerful. Besides the large number of rank 7 martial institutions, there are also rank 6 martial institutions. Without exception, all the top 10 martial institutions are the most talented disciples of those rank 6 martial institutions. Yi Chan said, so only the powerful martial institutions can produce the most talented disciples. Even the Rudra Nation is no exception. Indeed, that is the reason. Occasionally there might be some special cases, but it does not mean anything. It can only mean that they are lucky to have met a genius. But, if this genius joins a powerful martial institution, he might be even more powerful. Lu Hanshan suddenly glanced at Yichan. Actually, you are already half a genius. If you could learn the sword intent, it would not be an exaggeration to say that you are a real genius. Unfortunately, you have not had enough time to learn the sword intent. Otherwise, you might be able to compete with the geniuses on the hidden dragon rank. Hearing him, Zhu Mei glanced at Yichan with admiration. Learning the sword intent and blade intent is the dream of many sword artists and blade artists. Even among the top geniuses on the hidden dragon rank, not many of them have learned it. I have to say that you have the potential in this area. Yichan smiled. He had already learned the sword intent, but he was not very familiar with it yet. He needed to practice it in battles. Roar! Owa! Hu! In the sky above the desert, dozens of huge demonic beasts flew over from different directions. There were many human figures on the backs of those beasts. They were obviously people from other martial institutions. The last 2 hidden dragon rank warriors are here as well, Lu Hanshan said slowly. Chapter 141. Shua. Shua. Before the demonic beast landed, 2 young figures had already pounced on it with lightning speed. One of them was burly like a mountain, with a height of more than 2 meters. He was 1 size bigger than Xiaoyi. The other had a feminine aura, his eyes emitting a faint cold light, like a poisonous snake waiting for an opportunity to attack. Lin Yu, the head disciple of a rank 7 martial institution in the Elephant Mountain Nation, the Tiger Dragon Mountain, and Wei Dongxi, the head disciple of a rank 7 martial institution in the Thousand Thread Nation, the Green Bamboo Martial School. These two have also reached the clasping Yuan realm, rank 70th and 66th in the last hidden dragon rank. Hearing Luo Hanshan's introduction, Yichun seemed to be thinking about something. Among the 13 hidden dragon-ranked martial artists, there were 2 who hadn't reached the clasping Yuan realm yet, but they shouldn't be underestimated. After all, 1.5 years ago, they were already able to enter the hidden dragon ranked with the cultivation of peak-level late condensing reality realm, which meant that they were much more powerful than young Master North Snow and young Master Duanmu, not to mention now 1.5 years later. In comparison, the child-level power of the Windy Nation's child-level power was a bit lacking. The child-level power was definitely at the bottom. So many people have come, many of my old friends. Lin Yu twisted his neck, letting out a series of bone-creaking sounds. Wei Dongxi scanned the crowd and sneered. Apart from those old acquaintances on the list, the rest are all trash. I hope they don't run into me, or else I'll kill them without mercy. The murderous aura is still so heavy. However, you have to be careful of Zhuang Fei. During the Hidden Dragon ranking competition, he took a palm strike from you. This time he will definitely pay you back, said Lin Yu, fanning the flames. He can barely be considered an opponent. I will satisfy him. Although their voices were not loud, those with good hearing could still hear them. Over at the Emerald Martial Palace, the core disciples were indignant. This person is too arrogant. Could it be that he thinks he can defeat eldest senior brother? Once our head brother breaks through to the clasping Yuan realm, he will definitely lead the Emerald Martial School to glory. How could he stop him? He has overestimated himself. Zhuang Fei stopped their discussion and said indifferently, "Go in and kill him. Don't talk too much." Yes. The few of them immediately quietened down as if they were worshipping a god. Night fell quickly. The night of the scorching ancient desert was colder than expected. The surface of the sand was even covered with ice, which was as hard as iron. This damn desert. Many disciples who came out to relieve themselves couldn't help but shiver and curse. In the thick tent, Yichun was meditating. Right now, his Zhenqi cultivation was almost at the peak of the late condensing reality realm. However, he was still not strong enough to reach the peak in one go. In the true spirit continent, the progress of a warrior's cultivation was not the same. Some of them had accumulated a lot of experience and could improve a lot at once. Some of them just blindly followed the others and took it one step at a time. There were also some who tried their best to reach a certain realm, but because they had used up all of their accumulated experience, they had to stay in that realm for a very long time. Currently, Yichun belonged to the second type, which was to cultivate step by step and be down to earth. It was not that he did not want to choose the first type, but he simply did not have the time to accumulate his foundation. His actual cultivation time was less than 2 years, so how could he compare with others? As for the third type, the drawbacks were too great and very few people would choose it. The advantage of taking things one step at a time was that he could grasp his current strength faster and unleash 100% of his strength to its peak without any wastage. It was a silent night. It was already noon of the second day. More people from different martial institutions had arrived, including the Purple Sun Martial School, North Snow Martial Academy and South Rudra Martial School from the Windy Nation, and of course the only rank 9 family in the Windy Nation, the Duanmu family. So many powerful martial artists. Ouyang Lai and the others gasped in shock. They immediately stopped being so arrogant. Casually glancing at them, Yichun was a bit surprised. Yuan Shuamei was also here, but she was not even in the top 6 of the South Rudra Martial School. Of course, she was indeed very talented. Maybe the leader of the South Rudra Martial School wanted her to find some opportunities because of this. Another group of people who want to die. Yuan Henging and Imo Wuxia sneered. The third day, a red sun rose from the east, dyeing the scorching ancient desert red. The Heavenly Dream Ancient region will open in half an hour. You guys hand over your storage rings to me. The head elder gathered the 4 people and said. Luo Hanshan was surprised. Head elder, why? The head elder laughed and said, "It's my fault for not thinking about it before. The Heavenly Dream Ancient region is located in a space crack. It has its own small world, but it is different from the world we are in. The Heavenly Dream Ancient region rejects all external space. Even storage rings with space crystals would be strongly rejected. Once a martial artist steps into the heavenly dream ancient region, the storage rings would be crushed by the powerful space power. So that's how it is. The four people understood. They took off their storage rings one by one and handed them to the head elder. Putting away the storage rings, the head elder said, "Don't worry, the storage rings are your personal belongings. Without your permission, we won't check them." That's great. Yi-chan was really afraid that the head elder would check his storage rings. In his storage rings, there were over 10,000 low-rank soul stones, a low-rank great blade and a mid-rank storage ring. He didn't know how rare and precious a mid-rank storage ring was, but he had never seen an inner elder wearing a mid-rank storage ring. Yi-chan let out a bitter smile. Maybe I'm just a petty person. Would the head elder be greedy for my mid-rank storage ring? Not likely. Of course, Yi-chan wasn't ashamed of this. His motto in life was to be extra careful, extra cautious. If he didn't make it a habit today, it might lead to a disaster in the future. Sometimes, even if he trusted the other party, he shouldn't expose himself completely. The mountain-thick cyan light was getting brighter and brighter. That illusory light gate was no longer illusory. It looked like it was made of crystal and contained within the cyan light. Half an hour passed in a blink of an eye. Ing! The light gate slowly opened, and a loud and clear sound shook people's hearts. The head elder let out a long breath and said in a serious tone, "Everyone, go in. Remember, no matter where you are teleported to, stay calm, don't panic." Yes. The four of them were about to step into the gate. Swoosh. Haha, the heavenly dream ancient region is controlled by your institutions. Why can't we go in? Today no one can stop me. Sand and dust rose into the air. Two human silhouettes flew towards the light gate at an extremely high speed, almost reaching the speed of sound, letting out a loud swishing sound. Two mid-clasping Yuan realm martial artists. Yi-chan stopped walking. He was shocked. He didn't know where these two people came from. How could they hide under everyone's nose? Strangely, none of the elders from the institutions tried to stop them. Some of them shook their heads regretfully, but most of them sneered. Puff! Puff! Something amazing happened. The two of them were like moths flying into a flame. They were burned into ashes by the cyan light, not even leaving a trace, including the storage rings on their fingers. Stupid, if anyone could go in, how could you two get in? All the powerful martial artists from the institutions would have gone in already. The rules of the heavenly dream ancient region are very strange. Only people with a bone age of less than 24 can go in safely. Even life and death realm martial artists can't change their bone age. Through his soul power, Yi-chan sensed that a lot of people were discussing among themselves. No wonder they didn't stop him, they already knew the truth. However, it was easy to understand. The heavenly dream ancient region had been revealed for a long time. All the top martial institutions must have done a thorough research on it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so bold as to let their most talented disciples enter it to collect wealth for them. I'll go in first. The head disciple of the Evil Blood Martial School, Wuxia, moved his body, transformed into a beam of blood-red light, and darted into the light gate, disappearing completely. Almost at the same time, the other Hidden Dragon Martial School's powerful martial artists followed closely behind. Their extremely fast-moving silhouettes were dragging different colored streams of Zhen-Qi behind them. It was quite a beautiful scene. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. In the next moment, over 600 disciples rushed towards the light gate like a swarm of locusts. Some of them even started fighting against each other on the way. Let's go in as well. Seeing that most of the disciples had left, Lu Hanshan couldn't wait any longer. He leapt into the light gate. What a magnificent scene! It was the first time for Yi-chan to see so many powerful young martial artists gathered in one place. He slightly sighed, shook his head and followed Su Jing into the light gate, neither too fast nor too slow. Ouyang Lai, Ouyang Ming, you two remember, if you meet any Sky Cloud Martial School's disciples, kill them if you can, don't show any mercy. If the situation allows, you can join hands with people from other institutions and find a chance to assassinate them, especially that kid named Yi-chan. The Purple Sun Martial School's elder sent a message to Ouyang Lai and Ouyang Ming through his Zhen-Qi. A vicious light flashed across Ouyang Ming's eyes. He responded with his Zhen-Qi, "Elder, don't worry, even if you don't remind me, I will still kill all four of the Sky Cloud Martial School's disciples. As for that Yi-chan, although he might be a bit troublesome, he won't be a problem for me. He will eventually have to fight against someone else." Indeed, that's exactly what I meant. The Purple Sun Martial School's elder grinned evilly. Oyinglai said without any hesitation, as long as I am here, the four of them won't be able to come out alive. Then I will leave it to you. Shoo! Shoo! The two of them entered the light gate with an ulterior motive. The other four Purple Sun Martial School's disciples followed them. On the Sky Cloud Martial School's side, the fourth elder noticed this subtle scene. He used his Zhanqi to send a message to the head elder. Those bastards from the Purple Sun Martial School won't play any tricks, will they? The head elder said. Once they enter the Heavenly Dream Ancient region, their lives will be in their own hands. We have to believe that they will be able to come out alive, and it would also be good if they can kill those Purple Sun Martial School's disciples. Luo Hanshan and Su Jing are both cruel and merciless. Zhu Mei is still a bit soft. As for Yi Chun, I can't see through him. I don't know if he will leave any of them alive. Don't underestimate Yi Chun. He can be more cruel than anyone else in a critical moment. Once he entered the light gate, Yi Chun felt that the space around him was twisting. He couldn't see anything, he couldn't sense anything, he had become blind. After that, his body became as light as a feather, as if he was teleporting from a long distance. His speed was incredibly fast. After an unknown period of time, Yi Chun appeared in a huge swamp area, surrounded by swamps that were bubbling with gray bubbles and strange-looking trees. Occasionally, a hissing sound could be heard. Chapter 142. Golden Top Silver Snake Plant. Looking around, Yi Chun fixed his eyes on a gray lump of soil 10 meters away. In the middle of the lump of soil, a small plant with silver scales all over its body was standing there. There was even a trace of golden light on top of the plant, emitting a fine light. This plant is worth 50,000 gold. It is extremely rare. I can't believe I can see it here. Yi Chun was a bit surprised. One plant was worth 50,000 gold. It was definitely a sky-high price. If it was made into a protective pellet, it would be worth at least 500,000 gold. Even clasping Yuan realm warriors would fight for it. Without any hesitation, Yi Chun waved his hand. The golden top silver snake plant automatically came out of the soil and flew into his hand. However, before he could take a closer look, the lump of soil suddenly rose up. Two openings appeared on both sides, and a cold light gathered together, locking onto him. This was not a lump of soil at all. It was obviously a demonic beast that looked like a crocodile. Splash! The crocodile broke out of the water. Its 10 meters huge body carrying a strong corrosive demonic chi jumped towards Yi Chun. It opened its huge mouth full of sharp teeth. Yi Chun did not panic as he threw a punch at the crocodile beast's mouth. Clang! Tens of thousands of pounds of strength combined with pure Zhanqi. It only made the crocodile fly back a few steps. Not even a slight wound appeared on it. Die! After the first punch failed, Yi Chun's clothes fluttered in the wind. He punched the crocodile's abdomen again. Swoosh! This punch was not only extremely heavy, it also contained an unbreakable sharpness. It instantly pierced through the crocodile's body. Its blood dyed the swamp red. Taking out a black bag with golden threads, Yi Chun dug out the crocodile's pellet and threw it into the bag along with the jade box containing the golden top silver snake plant. Tying the bag tightly around his waist, Yi Chun's body flashed. He headed deeper into the swamp. Not long after, danger appeared again. From the big trees on both sides of the swamp, dozens of snake-like birds with wings flew out. The strange birds let out hissing sounds, attacking towards Yi Chun from all directions. Rule the world! With a punch, an umbrella-shaped black light shrouded Yi Chun's figure. The terrifying strange birds seemed to have crashed into an invisible wall and were all bounced back. They were twisted by the force of the punch. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths and their wings were broken. They fell into the swamp like rain and gradually sank. The Heavenly Dream Ancient region is an ancient inheritance ground. The environment inside has been preserved from the ancient times, and the beasts inside are also ancient beasts. Each and every one of them is incredibly powerful. According to the strength of the demonic chi, Yi Chun could easily tell that the crocodile was a level 4 demonic beast, and the horrifying bird was a level 3 demonic beast. However, compared to the demonic beasts outside, the demonic beasts here were at least 30% stronger. Their defense was exceptionally strong, and even a simple tyrant fist could not kill them. Yi Chun had no idea how vast the swamp was. He had been walking for half an hour, but he still hadn't seen the edge of the swamp. Along the way, countless demonic beasts had tried to attack him. Just a while ago, a calf-sized snail had spat out a mouthful of sticky liquid towards him. This sticky liquid was not only extremely sticky, but also contained a poisonous gas. If Yi-chan hadn't reacted fast enough and held his breath while dodging it, he would have been poisoned. At last, this snail was beheaded by Yi-chan with a single sword attack. That was the first time he had used his sword in this swamp. One could easily imagine how powerful that snail was. Stepping on a branch, Yi-chan stopped, leaning forward and turned his head, looking at the scorched ground tens of meters away from him. A broken stone monument stood on the ground. The words carved on it had already been blurred. In front of the monument, an iron stick was stuck into the ground. Only the back half of the stick, which was about a meter long, was exposed. Ichim! Yi-chan's eyes lit up. The iron stick was emitting a faintly discernible spirit chi. He was sure that a normal weapon wouldn't have such an effect. Could it be a brilliant weapon? Although he liked swords, it didn't mean that he would ignore other brilliant weapons. In the market, a low-rank brilliant weapon was worth at least 1 million gold taels. A slightly better one could be sold for 2 to 3 million gold taels. A low-rank brilliant weapon like the air splitter blade could even be sold for 4 to 5 million gold taels. Using the crane shadow steps, Yi-chan's figure disappeared from the branch. When he reappeared, he was already standing in front of the broken stone monument. Reaching out his hand to grab the iron stick, Yi-chan pulled it out with all his might. Boom! A scarlet-red flame soared into the sky, burning the big trees on the side into ashes. This was not an iron stick, but a pitch-black iron spear. It was 2 meters long, and the body of the spear had a mysterious spiral pattern. The edge of the spear was quadrangular, and there were grooves between the edges. At first glance, one would think that there was a spiral flame burning on the tip of the iron stick. It looked natural. A low-rank great spear, good stuff. Yi-chan could feel that there was a burning chi flowing in the iron spear. As long as he slightly pushed his Zhan chi, this burning chi would burst out and kill his enemies. However, compared to the tiger head great blade in his storage ring and Lynch's air splitter blade, it was slightly weaker. Great weapons were called brilliant weapons because they came with their own power. For example, the tiger head great blade contained blade chi, which could be used by mortal realm warriors. As for Lynch's air splitter blade, it was probably the same. This low-rank great spear contained the power of fire, which was undoubtedly the best weapon for those who trained in fire Zhan chi. Holding the iron spear, Yi-chan frowned. Such a huge iron spear, where should he keep it? He couldn't just hold it in his hand all the time. It was so inconvenient to not have a storage ring. Yi-chan shook his head and forced a smile. Thousands of meters away, 4 or 5 disciples from different martial institutions saw the flame in front of them. Their eyes lit up, and they rushed over without hesitation. Someone is coming. Yi-chan, who was about to leave, froze. After a dozen breaths, 5 disciples from different martial institutions appeared around him. They were all from different martial institutions from different countries. Each of them was staring at the low-rank great spear in his hand. The greed in their eyes was self-evident. Brat, put down the spear. Cut off one of your arms and I will spare your life. Such a treasure, how could you get it? You asked for it. The 5 of them slowly approached, trying to get the low-rank great spear first. Yi-chan sneered. These 5 people were all peak-level late-condensing reality realm warriors. Judging from their chi, 3 of them were child-level warriors, and the other 2 were child-level warriors. If you want the great spear, you will have to die first. There was no killing intent, no evil chi. Yi-chan had a sharp spirit, an unbreakable sharp spirit. You are looking for death. The disciple closest to Yi-chan made his move. He raised his hand and threw out a palm attack. A millstone-sized Zhen Chi palm pressed towards Yi-chan. These were not worthy of his sword attack. Yi-chan held the iron spear and stabbed it out. Whoosh! The red flame burned through the Zhen Chi palm and hit his neck. Pap! His head flew out, and the place where it was cut off was burnt black. He has a low-rank great spear. Let's attack together. The other 4 were startled and shouted, trying to put on a brave front. You are asking for death. He threw out a back spear attack. Layers of spear shadows appeared, like a mountain range. It was Yi-chan's lone peak of 13 swords. using the mountain range sword art. The martial disciple who attacked from behind had not even gotten close to Yi Chen, but already had dozens of burnt holes on his body. The fatal one was on his forehead, and half of his skull had been blown off. After killing a martial disciple with one spear attack, Yi Chen did not even take a breath. He swung his spear horizontally, and the red flame exploded, landing on the left side of the other martial disciple's waist. Crack! That martial disciple's body was cut in half, and fell into the swamp. Run! This guy is not a normal late condensing reality realm warrior. At this moment, the remaining two people finally understood that Yi Chen was not someone they could mess with. Normally, a warrior with a low-rank great weapon would be able to fight against two people at most, and that would be the limit. It would be impossible to kill three people at once, and that would only be possible if one's own fighting power was equally powerful. But it was too late to run now. One of them was too slow, and his head was blown off by Yi Chen. The other one was already hundreds of meters away. Before he could even feel lucky, he felt a burning sensation in his chest. He looked down and saw that the spear had pierced through his chest, nailing him to a big tree. The big tree was burning, and the fire spread everywhere. Walking over and pulling out the iron spear, Yi Chen thought to himself, "To me, child-level power is not enough anymore. You can only blame your bad luck." Instead of leaving immediately, Yi Chen suddenly turned around. "It's time to show yourself, friend." Shoo! A human silhouette jumped out and landed on a rock in the middle of the swamp. "Not bad, with a low-rank great spear. You managed to kill 5 disciples from other martial institutions at the same level. If possible, I don't want to kill you, but you have to cut off one of your own arms. As for the great spear, it will be my Qiuheng's trophy. What do you think?" The young man was about 21 or 22 years old. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and a strong evil vibe coming from his body. A poisonous snake next to him had just shown its head, but it was immediately kicked in half by him. Killing a rank 3 ancient beast in a second, he was very powerful. Yi Chen could tell that his opponent was not simple. In the Heavenly Dream Ancient region, a rank 3 ancient beast's defense was extremely strong. Even his tyrant fist could not kill it instantly, but his opponent was able to kill it so easily. If he was not mistaken, this person's power was close to the last hidden dragon rank warriors. You? If it were before, Yi Chen would not have the confidence to win against him. But now things were different. The young man sneered. "In the last hidden dragon rank, I was rank 75. Unfortunately, I was only in the top 72. But if you compare me to a normal peak-level late condensing reality realm warrior, you will die a horrible death. I can kill a bunch of those people easily. Do you want to live or die? Make your choice." Clang! The iron spear stabbed into the ground. Yi Chen pulled out the hidden cloud sword and said, "I will kill you with one sword attack." Why are there so many people who want to die? Don't worry, I won't let you die right away. I will tear off your limbs and stick them on a tree." While saying those creepy words, Qiuheng's right foot lightly tapped on the rock. Puff! The rock exploded, and he had already jumped towards Yi Chen. While he was still in the air, his sharp leg power had already cut a few big trees near Yi Chen in half. The cut was as smooth as a mirror, as if it had been carefully polished. Compared to him, Sherpatian and the others were not even on the same level. This Qiuheng was unbelievably powerful. One sword attack. Yi Chen did not react at all. He slightly shook his head and casually threw out a sword attack. "What's going on? I can see my back with my head." Qiuheng felt that his body was moving further and further away. He could see his back, but his target had already put his sword back into its scabbard and turned around. That strange feeling made him panic.